The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Rob Deininger, and as always, I'm here with Jack Degraw, and we are talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you today, Robert?
Not too bad. Spring training's in full effect. The Yankees are 5-4 through 9 games, and take on Atlanta today.
Yeah, and Rodon's going to get the start today, so this is his first time in a Yankee uniform.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying we've finally got a 1A to go with their number one pitcher, Garrett Cole. And you know, I haven't really seen much of Rodon, but from what everyone's saying, he's a really good pitcher. And
for the last 3 years, he's really been outstanding.
It'd be nice to get a look at him. I know they're not televised today, but you know, I'll be able to at least, you can always find highlights somewhere on him.
You know, I don't really know what's going on, Robert, because like the games aren't on down here. But have they televised many Yankee games up there?
There's been 2 games on Yes and 1 on MLB Network. You know, you'd think a team with their own network would broadcast their games, but for some reason, spring training games they don't air a lot of them on the Yes Network. They'll show the replay, but it's like late at night, like, you know, 10, 11, 12 at night. You know, I'm not staying up to watch the the replay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a couple of years back. Didn't they show almost all the games in spring training?
Yeah, you could always watch a spring training game on the S Network, and then all of a sudden they were hard to watch. They weren't televising them during the day when they were on.
You know, like you think with the Yankees with their own network would at least set up some cameras, even if they don't have any announcement. You know, you at least watch the game.
Yeah, and like I said, most of the time they would put the replay on, but it'd be late at night, you know, and you don't want to stay up until midnight watching and waiting for a game to come on that you already know the score of.
Yeah, once you know the score, it just takes away from it.
Yeah. Once you already seen the highlights and the score, you're just watching for little nuances and stuff like that, and you don't want to stay up late till it's, you know, especially if you got work the next day or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair with, you know, they got their own network, the Yes, and, you know, they don't see the games.
Yeah, you'd think they would, you know, air them when they're, you know, actually playing the game during the day. You know, I don't get it. You know, it's not like they got something more important to be broadcasting, you know, just old reruns of shows that are meaningless.
Yeah, I even the last previous, you know, 5-6 years, I mean, MLB, even in spring training, they've shown almost all the games.
Yeah, like right now on the Yes Network, they have a whole day of history of the Yankees, and you know, from 57 to 79, and then 80 to 2, which is nice if you want to watch it. But there's actually a spring training game on. Why don't you televise that instead of, you know, history of the Yankees?
Yeah, you show that all winter.
Yeah, you know. But you know, there are some players though making noise I would like to see. You know, Anthony Volpe is one of them. You know, Jasson Dominguez is another one. You know, I would like to see some of these young kids play, but for whatever reason, they don't want to televise them.
Yeah, I mean, you got the outfield battle. You know, you got Hicks, and you got you got this guy. What's his name?
Ortega,
and you got Willie Calhoun, who hit 21 homers with Texas in 2019. They all homered yesterday. They're all playing well. It's like that's one of the things you'd like to see.
Yeah, this Ortega guy, he had a grand slam. I mean, he's batting .375. He's got 2 homers, you know, 5 RBIs. And I never heard of him before until I saw the highlight of him hitting a grand slam.
Yeah, there was a bunch of home runs in yesterday's game, but I just got to mention before I forget, I'm down here in Tampa. In the last 2 days, and in spring especially, the wind is blowing out a gale.
Yeah. It always seems to be blowing hard down there in spring training.
Yeah, so a lot of those home runs, they might not be home runs if the wind wasn't blowing 20, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, because I see Severino has I think he's had, how many outings has he had? Severino, in 2 games, Severino's given up 7 runs on 5 hits, including 3 home runs.
Yeah, well, like I say yesterday, the wind was blowing out the left and center, and it was just anything hitting the air.
Yeah.
Was just going to fly out of the ballpark.
Well, even Volpe hit one to lead off a game, and it looked like it caught the airstream and rode it out. I mean, he did hit it hard, but you get it up in that air, and you get that wind to carry it.
Yeah, so, and, another thing, Rob, we were talking, I think Cabrera is going to play a game in center. They're going to put Judge in left field for a few games later in the week, and they're going to get Stanton out in right field. And the thing is, if you can play the outfield down here in Florida with the high sky and the wind and the sun, you can pretty much play it anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And Stanton, he wasn't a bad outfielder when he was with Miami, and he seems to play better when you put him out in the field.
No, I mean, he does a nice job out there. He's got a good arm.
Yeah.
So, and like you were saying, he just plays better when he seems to be more involved in the game.
Yeah. And I think Boone even said at Yankee Stadium he wouldn't mind, putting Judge in left or center sometimes to give Stanton some time in right field at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, well, we're going to see it. I think they were talking Thursday they were going to do it.
Yeah.
Thursday or Friday. So, we might see that later in the week.
Yeah, and going back to Anthony Volpe, I didn't know MLB Network was just showing a profile on him. He's the number 5 prospect in all baseball, and this spring training he's looked good, and most of his hits have come against Major League pitching. So I don't think he'll be on the roster to start the season, but I do think maybe by the mid-season we might see him if he continues to hit down there. Yeah,
well, like you mentioned, Robert, it's not. It's always great when they hit, but it's who they get the hits against.
Yeah. Yep.
And he started a lot of games, so or coming in the 3rd or 4th inning, and he's faced Major League pitching, so that's what's really encouraging because he's hitting guys in the big leagues.
Yeah, when he's been leading off, he's been at the top of the lineup leading off, so he gets to face a lot of these guys, who are Major League pitchers, and they've also been playing him at 2nd and 3rd to get him used to, the positions, just in case, he has to play somewhere other than shortstop. Yeah,
like I think with with Donaldson and Kiner Falefa, if they don't perform, they're not gonna. The Yankees got a lot of options, so you just go with all your players, and the guys the Yankees have can play 2nd, short, and 3rd, so they do have a lot of options.
Yeah, because Donaldson, you don't know what he's going to be like this year, and Glaber, they've been trying to, you've heard his name in trade rumors the last few years, including this past offseason. So, I mean, if they make a move at the trade deadline, like moving someone like Torres, you could see Volpe up here at 2nd base. You just don't know what could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, I think we will see Volpe. Unfortunately, even no matter how good he plays this spring, I got a feeling, we're going to see the same lineup we've seen last year on opening day.
Yeah, like we were talking off air, Yankees don't like to, start the season off with rookies. They rather keep them down there and then bring them up later on in the season so they don't lose any eligibility. Yeah, and I think that might be the case, with Volpe, which is not necessarily a bad thing because he hasn't had a lot of at-bats at AAA, and it's better to have him playing AAA for X amount of time and getting playing every day than, coming up to New York with the high expectations and,
So, but I think it'll definitely happen sometime this season.
Yeah, and there are people thinking that Cabrera will win the shortstop job, but I think I'm with you. I think we'll see kind of Falefa to start the season at short and Hicks in left too, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Yankees like to go with veterans.
Yeah.
And, they feel more comfortable with those guys because they got a proven record. But if they don't perform and the team's not playing well, you're going to see a shakeup, I think. Yeah,
and even though I haven't seen a lot of the games, Jasson Dominguez is batting .400. He's got 4 hits and 10 at-bats. He's scored 5 runs. His stats look good. I mean, he's another one. I'm curious to see how he starts the season down the minors. I assume they'll be starting him in Double-A.
Yeah, that's where he come up last year, and they won a championship down there in Somerset. And he'll probably start out this year in Somerset. They say in the games he looks very confident. He's not like overwhelmed with the situation and playing in front of big crowds. So that's also encouraging.
Yeah, Boone made a comment about him in the batter's box, just about how comfortable he looks and how he seems to slow everything down at the plate. And that's something that's very encouraging. And he's only 20 years old, and he's a switch hitter. He's got pop in his bat.
Yeah, I don't think, Robert, I don't think we'll see him this year, maybe not even next year, maybe at the end of next year if he really develops. But, with all the high praise he's gotten, and he's gotten a lot better in the last year or so, or even the last half season. So we'll see him in the big league soon. Yeah,
and they have him playing in center field in the minors, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was bigger, but he's only like 5'10", 190 pounds. I thought he was, with the nickname The Martian, I thought he was like 6'5", 2-something. But he's only 5'10", 190.
I know when I see him down here in Tampa, you just see the clips when he played in the minor league. You just see the clips, when he was hitting all the home runs and batting practice. You see him up close. I mean, he's a big guy. He's put together. But he's not like like the Martian. You figure he'd be like somebody's judge's size. Yeah.
Judge and Stan are two really big guys, especially Judge. I mean, Jesus, 6'7". I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I thought Dave Winfield was a big guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anything that stand out to you this spring training?
Well, like I say, Robert, I haven't really got a chance to see too much. I mean, we're encouraged about the younger guys, of course.
Yeah.
But, I think as we get along in the next week or 10 days, then we'll start to see some of the, the starters go longer and, the everyday lineup. And so there's a lot to look forward to. I just wish they would show some of the games on TV.
I know. And we were talking off air about the catcher spot. Higgy's going to play in the World Baseball Classic, and one of the Yankees prospects is a catcher named Austin Wells, right?
Yep. And he broke a rib, and so he would have got a lot of playing time, of course, with Higgy going away. But now, they're going to have to bring up some guys from the minors. That was a tough break for him, and he might not be ready till, the first week in April. And the interesting thing, Robert, the minor league seasons start the same as the major league season, which it always used to be a week or 10 days later.
Yeah, because I remember hearing Austin Wells' name mentioned. He's been very productive down in the minor leagues, right?
Yeah, he was down in Somerset last year, and the best thing I remember about him, I remember going down a game here in Clearwater when he was with the Tampa Tarpons, and he got up against his shift and he bunted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I like Higgy. He's a great defensive player, but every time he gets an opportunity, to play extended times, he's not that great of a hitter during the regular season. And Trevino, he's solid, but it's been a while since we had a very productive catcher offensively.
Yeah, that's what they need. I mean, Higgy always hits great in spring training. He hits his share of homers, and he has a hot stretch sometime during the year. But, I mean, when you put Trevino and Higgy together, you know, with their great offense, and they're productive on offense. They hit homers.
Yeah.
And they knock in runs, but you really would like to see somebody like Posada.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we back in, what was it, the 80s, late 80s, when we got Matt Noakes from the Tigers, the left-hander.
Yeah.
He was a left-handed hitting catcher. But yeah.
Yeah, he had a couple of years with the Yankees, and I think he hit 23, 24 home runs. The thing I remember, Robert, they were playing the Red Sox one night, and Clemens threw a fastball, and Noakes caught it under his shoulder, like his armpit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they play Atlanta today, and I think they play a lot of them nationally. Yeah, they play Atlanta, then Pittsburgh on Monday, St. Louis on Wednesday. Then they play Boston Thursday, Detroit Friday, and back to playing National League teams.
Yeah. Usually in the spring they don't like to travel too much. I mean, once in a while they have to go over where the Cardinals are, or they have to go, west, Port St. Lucie or the Mets, somewhere out in the left coast, as they say.
Yeah.
And but mostly they like to stay, Bradenton, Clearwater, Lakeland.
The next time they play on ESPN is not until March 23rd. Wow. So I got to look for them on either on the Yes or the Major League Network.
Yeah, I got tickets for 5 or 6 games later in the spring.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be nice.
So when I actually see a game, I can, give some better commentary.
Yeah.
But one of the things they've been talking, Robert, with the clock, it's made the game go quicker.
Yeah, the games are under 3 hours, like 2.5, 2:40. The games have been moving along pretty quick.
Well, we'll have to see how it works. I mean, a lot of the times, because the minor league pitchers have been used to this, so it'll be interesting to see how the major league pitchers adapt and what they do when the regular season starts.
Yeah, because it's 15 seconds with no one on base and then 20 seconds with runners on.
Yeah, I mean, they had a game this spring when it was 6-6 in the bottom of the ninth, and the batter was slower getting in the box, and he got a call third strike against him.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times. I think they're only allowed to call 2 timeouts, and they can't call timeout with 8 seconds or less on the clock.
Yeah, and I think Sevy got a strikeout the other day without throwing a pitch.
It's gonna be interesting this year.
Yeah, and when the pitcher's on the rubber, he can step off, and the clock restarts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And does the clock, when the pitcher throws it, as soon as it hits the catcher's glove, the clock restarts again, right?
Yeah, that's the rule, I believe, unless it's not the rule. I think that's the rule at this point.
And we were talking off air about the Red Sox game and the shift they put on. They found a little loophole, I guess, as far as the shift's concerned.
Yeah, I believe the Red Sox did. They were playing the Twins, and Joey Gallo was up, and the right fielder come and played short right field. Now, the shortstop, the third baseman was in the shortstop position. The second base was on the, he moved towards second, but he was on the shortstop side of second. And the second base was regular position, the first baseman, but they moved the left fielder to short right field.
Wow. I wonder if Major League Baseball will allow that during the regular season. it bothers me. I think that should be illegal as well, but it's not what the rule says, right? I mean, it's nothing about the outfielders. It's just about the infielders.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean that's a loophole in the rule, and I don't know. We'll have that's another thing to look for. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, because when we're talking up here, like you said, if someone were able to hit the ball to left field, I mean, if they got speed, that's an inside the park home run because there'd be no left fielder over there.
Yeah, when all these rules are great in spring training, but when they get to the regular season, or say you get later in the season, or you get to the playoffs, are they going to be as strict? I mean, you hate to see a playoff game or a big regular season game. The pitcher took too much time to throw a pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, it's the breaks. One thing can go against you, and it could cost you the game.
Yeah, so I think some point during the season you might see, changing the rules again, because they've changed so many of them. It's hard to keep track, but there's always a way to get around things.
Yeah, and how about the extra inning rule? Are we still doing that start off at second base crap, or did they change that?
No, they still have that.
That
hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, I got to do something about that. Yeah. And they don't do it during the playoffs, though, right? Playoffs
No.
is normal?
No.
Yeah.
But, it looks like that rule's not going to change.
Yeah. Oh, well. And I wish they would, they wiped out the left-handed specialist because, bullpen pitchers now have to face three batters. I hate that rule, too, because it kind of eliminated the left-handed specialist. I always liked, having that left-handed specialist in the bullpen.
Yeah, you got some of those guys, they would pitch till they're 45, 46 years old. Mm-hmm. They'd get into 60 games and pitch 40 innings, but, they made a career. And, I mean, it was a big part of everybody's bullpen. Yeah,
I mean, Graham Lloyd with the Yankees. I mean, he was a big part of those championships, coming out of the bullpen to face a batter, too.
He had a great, postseason in '96, and then we had Mike Stanton, and he was outstanding. So,
yeah, it's the little things like that. I mean, I can understand speeding up the game, but tinkering it with too much, it irks me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if they wanted to shorten the game, something that will never happen. They got so many commercials, and there's so much dead time between innings.
Yeah. And like I think I said this before. I watched some of the old Yankee games, and just how quick the pitchers worked back then. That's one of the problems is you would have and also the batters. You'd have a batter here or there that would take their time in the batter's box, but now it seems like every batter takes their time in the batter's box, constantly stepping out. Stuff like that's prolonged the game. So I don't mind the pitch clock as much and the batter rule, but just the other things, the pitching to three hitters, the extra inning rules, stuff like that's bothersome. Yeah,
well, I think the thing is, Robert, people my age, we'll be dead in a certain amount of time, and I don't think we'll be getting better either. And they want to keep the younger fans, and this is what they have to do to create interest.
And Michael Kay was on ESPN First Take this week talking to Stephen A. Smith, and he even said one of the biggest problems Major League Baseball has is players don't ingratiate themselves enough with the fans anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, Robert. I moved to Florida. One of the main reasons I moved to Florida to see the Yankees. Spring training, the league games, and I've had a wonderful time. And the players, the front office, everybody I've met with the Yankees were great, except for one or two people. But it was nice to be able to interact with the players.
Yeah,
and to be able to talk to them, and you were able to get friendly with them, the minor league guys, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a fun atmosphere. But now they have the netting up, and the players don't come over and talk to the, interact with the fans. They're not close to the fans, and they're, you can't. It's not as much fun as it used to be, and as a result, I lost interest, and I think a lot of people have lost interest because they don't interact with the fans anymore. Yeah.
I think a few years ago, Major League Baseball wanted to make Mike Trout the face of baseball, and he declined. He didn't want it. He told them he just wants to play baseball, but they wanted to make him the face of baseball, but he didn't want to take on the responsibility of, being fan friendly and shooting the commercials and stuff like that, everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at other sports, football and basketball, they promote the sport. They're always on commercials. They're always having, things on YouTube and stuff. They promote their sport. They make it popular, and kids want to play it. But baseball don't really do it, and as a result, it'll always be a great game, but it's a dying sport in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and you're right. Back in the at spring training was a time where you could interact with players, coaches, and other officials, and it's not like that anymore. No, you just can't do it. You're able to be friendly with a lot of the players and talk to them, and even at the minor league games, especially, and that was nice. Yeah. And now when you don't have that anymore, it's like, well, why should you care about something that don't care about you? And that's what happens. Yeah. I remember, back in the 90s going to game, Don Mattingly was someone who was always out front, signing autographs before the game started, mingling with the crowd, and Judge does it. Judge is one of the few players that's you see do it, but a lot of the players don't do that anymore. No. And Judge was even great when he was in the minor leagues. He's always been a class person. And I remember going to Yankee games, Rob, and I'm sure you did it too. They used to have the barricade set up when the players would walk in or they'd drive their car in. And, the fans would yell at them and they'd wave and the couple would come over and sign autographs. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, when I went to that playoff game in '95, I watched the teams come in, and Mattingly was, I think, literally one of the only ones that signed a few autographs on his way in. And I remember thinking, oh, my God, I'm bigger than him, because on TV they look so much bigger, when you're up there in person, they're like, oh, shit, he's not that big, The Seattle players, on the other hand, like Griffey, fucking Jay Buhner, those guys were freaking big. Edgar Martinez, those guys were the real deal. Yankees look so small compared to them. Yeah, well, that was one of the things, Robert. You would go to the games, and even at the end of the game when the traffic was bad. So, we're not getting out of there for an hour anyway. So let's go over and watch the players come out. Yeah, you were right there. You're literally a handshake, literally an arm's length away from them, And it'd be nice, they would sign autographs and, they'd acknowledge the fans. And it was a fun, it's just, and that's what baseball should be. That's what life should be. Life should be fun. Yeah. I even saw Spike Lee one time, and they wouldn't let him in. He wasn't on he went up to the press, look for a press pass, and they didn't have his name there, and he put up a fit. But he wasn't a member of the press. They wouldn't let him in. He had to turn around and walk away. Yeah. And everyone was giving him a hard time, the fans. But it's little things like that, make it fun. Yeah. Going early for batting practice and, something like that. And, when they don't do that anymore, people don't miss it because they never experienced it. Yeah. And I think they don't allow you in. I think they allow you in like 2 hours before the game. I think it used to be like 4 hours before the game you can go in or something like that. Well, the thing is now it's like, I think on the weekend it's an hour and a half and it's an hour before, but you could go in and watch the Yankees take batting practice. Yeah.
And then you could watch the other team take batting practice, and then they would do infield practice. And then the grounds crew would, like, water the infield and rake the field. And, that was fun to see, too. But, unfortunately, you don't have that anymore, and the fans have never experienced it, so, they don't know what they were missing.
Yeah. That's like Michael Kay was even saying, they have their core fans baseball, like, people our age, but they've been having trouble recruiting and keeping younger fans for baseball. And I think the main reason for it is it's hard to interact with players and little things like what we're talking about. The game's changed a little bit.
Yeah, well, we talked about it last week, and I don't want to keep going on because I can ramble for a long time. But everybody played wiffle ball or stick ball, or so played catch, and now it's they don't do that now. I mean, everything is so programmed for one sport, and the younger generation, when you were our age, you had to go out and do something.
Yeah.
Now all you have to do is sit in front of a computer. So it's a different thing.
It's like when I was growing up there, I had two places where I could play stickball. There was a stickball yard in my town in Seabright, and then there was another one in Rumson, the town over, and both of them are gone now. You used to be able to play stickball or handball or whatever, and they're gone. And instead you see parks for skateboarding, and you still see basketball courts here and there, but there's really no place where you can just have a stickball game or a wiffle ball game or something,
Yeah, throw the ball against the wall. I know they got some nice facilities down here in Tampa, but all the ball fields are locked for the Little Leaguers. And I don't know.
Yeah. And like you said today with the video games, kids sit in front of their computers playing video games all damn day.
Well, that's what happens too with the analytics. They'll look at, when you watch a player every day, you really follow a team, what's going on. But when you do it, like, okay, well, this guy is, when he plays, the team is playing better, and he's got a 280 average, but if you watch the game, what is he doing to impact the game? Yeah. The stats are great, but when you see it, then you can really appreciate it more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of examples. Take Willie Randolph. You look at Willie's stats, you'll see Willie was a good player. But if you're a Yankees fan and you watched him every day, Willie Randolph was an outstanding ball player.
Oh, yeah.
He was exceptional. But when you look at the stats, you'll see 276 or something like that. You really don't appreciate guys like that until you see them all the time.
Yeah, he was an ideal number 2 hitter, and he was great in the field. I mean, that lineup, I remember Ricky Henderson, Willie Randolph, Tom Mattingly, Dave Winfield. I mean, they all helped each other in that lineup.
Yeah, but, that's just an example. When you don't see them every day, you really don't, appreciate how good they are.
Yeah, I mean, discipline you got to be at the plate when you got Ricky Henderson on first base, I mean, if he's not stealing, you got to move him over. And Willie was great at moving guys over, hitting the other way, doing what he had to do. Willie was a great player. Yeah.
Well, he's just one of those guys that you could depend on him. He'd always have a good year. He was solid, and but then again, it's just with all the analytics and the stat following, and now when they allow gambling, baseball, and all the other sports, it makes you think.
Yeah, they encourage betting now, and poor Pete Rose can't even get into the Hall of Fame. Ironic. And Willie is one of the people who have said about Anthony Volpe, he's a can't miss. And when Willie Randolph says that about prospect, you got to listen. So I think the Yankees, I see why they've been hesitant to even consider moving Anthony Volpe in trades. You know, if he's that kind of a player, I can't wait till I finally see him in the big leagues one day.
Yep. And you know, I'm sure we'll see it this year. Another thing, Robert, before I forget, Don Mattingly's with Toronto, the batting bench coach.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I thought he was going to take the year off, spend with the family. But, yeah, he's a bench coach for Toronto, which that's great. Yeah, I hope he's managing another club one day soon. It could be Toronto. You never know. They like to fire managers.
Well, when the Yankees played in Dunedin, I believe it was last Sunday, you know, he brought out the lineup card. And if Toronto underachieves, which I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but, you know, Mattingly might wind up managing the Blue Jays. So.
Yeah, because there's an article with from ESPN, and Donnie said he turned down a lot of offers, but he said after he talked to the GM for Toronto, it piqued his interest right away. So, Donnie was quoted saying, "Knowing the talent and seeing it, I know it's a really good club. You look at the combination of youth and experience and an offense that can throw up runs over the last few years. I've seen these guys. They throw up runs in a hurry. I think overall the ingredients are there to win. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if promises were made to him that, you could take over this club one day if they underachieve. So I would love to see him managing again. I think he's a heck of a manager.
Well, I think he'll get another opportunity. I mean, Toronto last year, you know, they made the playoffs, but I'm, you know, not that I follow as much, but I think in the first game they blew a big lead.
Yeah.
And they wound up losing that series. So I think if, you know, they're struggling at some point this season, maybe the All-Star break, you know, you might see Mattingly managing the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I mean, when he was with the L.A., I think they won the division 3 out of 4 years. And I think he went to the playoffs with Miami, and I think he won Coach of the Year that year with Miami in that shortened season. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, he's got experience now, and he knows baseball.
Yeah, you know, with all the, you know, what he has accomplished as a player and, you know, the manager thing, I mean, he had some success with the Dodgers, and the Marlins are just the Marlins.
Yeah.
You know, you could get another job somewhere and, you know, win more games. I think that would get him over the hump for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you know, and I'd like to see, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he works with some of the players over there with their hitting. So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to the Blue Jays this year to see if some of these guys, you know, have a better season at the plate with Donnie as bench coach. Yeah,
he had a comment, you know, he was talking about analytics, and one of the things he was saying, you know, when a hitter gets in the box, you just got to have to learn how to adjust and how the pitcher's throwing and, you know, the game situation. And, you know, I can't say anything like the way he said it, but there was a nice quote that he made, and it's like, you know, it boils down to the player's got to, you know, be the one who makes decisions, not the analytics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You got to let the players play.
Yeah, you do. You know, I mean, you don't need people who've never played the game telling you how to hit and how to play the game of baseball.
Well, that's it, and that's why it's a useful thing to have.
Yeah.
But when you get people who've never actually done it, you know, they're looking at stats instead of knowing what it's like, you know, to be out on the field. So that's a different thing. The Rays broadcaster Dave Wills, 58, passed away. He's been the Tampa Bay Rays broadcaster for the last 18 years. Passed away at age 58. Yeah, you know, Robert, when we were talking before the show, I happened to see that, and the Rays, the broadcasting team for the Rays over the years, they do a tremendous job. I mean, they're really a class organization, but from top to bottom. But you know, he'll be sorely missed because he was very knowledgeable. Yeah.
Yeah, and for fun, we were talking off air. I've been a huge Andahar fan, and when they signed with Touchin, they designate him for assignment and re-signed him to a minor league deal. And if he doesn't make the roster, he'll have to go to the minors to start the season. And he's off to a very slow start with Pittsburgh to spring training. He's batting under 100. He's got 5 strikeouts and 11 at-bats. I wonder if he's pressing a little bit too much, hoping to make the roster for opening day.
Well, I just hope it for his sake it doesn't wind up, up and down all season. Here's a guy, Robert, I wanted to mention. I just remember his name, Spencer Jones.
Okay.
With the Yankees. He was a number 1 pick last year, and he's as big as Judge, if not bigger.
Yeah. That's right.
So I think he got in the game last week, and hopefully, he's still young, but he did play, at top flight college baseball. So he could be moving up pretty quick too. But he's like a Judge.
Yeah,
he's as big as him, and he's got a big high ceiling.
Yeah, and is he a left-handed batter?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember when they drafted him last year. They were talking about his size and his overall talent. Apparently, he's a really good hitter.
Yeah, so there's another guy to watch.
Yeah, and I also looked at Luke Voigt to see how he was doing with Milwaukee. He's off to a solid start. He's batting like 500. I think he's got like 6 hits and 12 at bats or something like that.
Well, he can be productive. So I'm surprised, no team signed him during the off season, but he'll get a shot up there. I hope for his sake.
Yeah, and also with Frankie Montas being out for a while, Herman and Schmidt are going to battle for the 5th spot. And I'd rather Herman get that 5th spot because I kind of like Schmidt coming out of the bullpen and Spot starting here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got Michael King also, so we'll see. They have some arms. We don't know who's going to be if Holmes can, fit the bill again this year. I hope he can. I think he's got the stuff to do it, but the bullpen's still a question mark. Yeah,
and I know they're talking about position battles with left field and shortstop, but like you said, we're going to see kind of Falefa and Hicks starting the season, and the bullpen is the big question mark. Who's going to fill Chapman's shoes and Chad Green's shoes? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the bullpen and who's going to be doing what.
Yeah, I mean they got some big arms in the in the camp this year, but we'll have to see how that turns out.
Yeah, and Jonathan Loaisiga is going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic. I don't know when that starts up, but I guess we won't see him for a while, or at least for a few weeks. Yeah, I think that starts in about 10 days or so, a week or 10 days. Yeah, because Loaisiga has pitched in 2 games, has looked good. I always thought he would make a good closer, but last year he struggled for the first time in a while. I hadn't seen him struggle since he's come up, he's been solid. But last year I don't know if he's battling injuries or what, but he kind of fell off a little bit last year. Yeah, I think sometimes with the pitching last year, I mean, they didn't go deep in games because they had short spring training. And I think when the Yankees started to hit the skids, like around the All-Star break, a lot of those pitchers were gassed. Yeah, I'd like to see Boone do a little bit better job of managing the bullpen. I mean, he went to the bullpen quick last year, and right from the get-go. Yeah, because they didn't have the same off season, and I think spring training last year was only 18 games. Yeah. So that probably played a big part. Yeah, because a lot of the pitchers started to break down, and we had a lot of injuries in the bullpen last year. Yeah, I don't think they had a full off season, full spring training, so maybe we won't see that this year. That's another thing to keep an eye on. Yeah, hopefully I can catch a couple of games this week. But it's been hard. A lot of them aren't televised, and when they are, I'm too tired to watch.
Well, I'm looking forward to going some games shortly. Let me just mention, Robert, 50 years ago this week, Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich, Yankee pitchers, traded families.
Yeah. That's insane. That's awesome.
Wife, kids, dogs, and everything.
Yeah. Didn't they write wasn't there a book written about that? Or am I thinking of someone else?
There's been some books written where they mentioned it, but nobody actually wrote a book about that particular incident. There was even talk of them making a movie of it. And I know Fritz and Mrs. Kekich have been married for over 50 years, and they've started a family and everything. And Mike Kekich and Mrs. Peterson just didn't pan out, but Fritz is a great guy. Ralph had him on the Comfortably Zone network a couple of years ago. It's a great interview, and Fritz is just super. I know he's having some health issues now, but it was a big story back then, but it was a love story, and it worked out for Fritz and his wife. So
and our listeners can find that interview with Ralph on the archives for Comfortably Zone Radio Network, right?
Yeah. Fritz was quite a character. I got to meet him a lot down here, and now I'll ramble on a little bit. But the game when Thurman Munson hit his first home run, that's when it was Mercer, Munson, and Stick Michael. They hit 3 homers on 5 pitches. Roy White hit a home run that game, and Fritz Peterson won that game.
No kidding.
Yeah, Fritz Peterson won that game, and about 40 years later, I had a copy of the score. I made a bunch of copies, and I gave it to Fritz, and he saw it. And I made a copy, and I think they gave it to Mrs. Munson too. So that's
cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. Holy shit. And my dad was a big Roy White fan. He used to rave about him, how good he was. He was a switch hitter, right, Roy White?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
It was kind of cool, Robert. A couple months ago, I get on Facebook, and Roy White wanted to friend me.
No kidding.
Yeah. And of course, I jumped all over it because Roy's got a web page on Facebook. Ronnie Bloomberg and Mickey Rivers got a Facebook page, so you can check that out.
Yeah. Oh man. My brother sent me a video of his son pitching. I guess what's his name? Mark Leiter has a little indoor pitching thing set up, and my brother sent me a video of his son throwing. He's got great mechanics. He looks like a professional little leaguer. I got to send you the video of it. I haven't had a chance to talk to my brother, about what's going on, but he sent me a little clip of his son throwing in this bullpen setup that Mark Leiter has on his property.
No, that's great. I remember we talked about that about 6 months ago.
Yeah. I guess there was my nephew was there, and there was a high schooler there throwing too, working side by side, and you could see Mark Leiter to the side. So I got to send you that video. It's a real short clip. It's just my nephew throwing a pitch, and you can hear the smack of the glove. My brother said he can't play catch with him anymore because he hurts his hand. He throws too hard.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's what you get some professional. Somebody teaching you who's actually played the game and, had success at it. And that's great. Hopefully the kid will get a scholarship.
Yeah, he loves pitching, and I wanted to go to a game, but my brother never got back in touch with me with any information about, where the game was going to be played. So I don't want to catch and see how he does because apparently he's pretty good. He's getting better.
Yeah, hopefully you get a chance to see him pitch. Should be something up there.
Yeah, because he's I think 11 or 12 right now. You know, so I'm curious to see how he looks. You know.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That's something to look forward to. Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to this week? Anything as far as the Yankees?
Well, I just hope everybody stays healthy, and you know, see how the young players, you know, keep developing, and you know, that's about it, Robert. Hope I might go to a game this week. I know I'm going to 2 or 3 next week, but you know, that's something to look forward to. But right now, I haven't seen anything, so I can't tell you too much.
That's like right now. Atlanta's winning 2-1 in the top of the second against the Yankees.
Okay, you got Rodon on the mound, so.
Yeah, I guess Matt Olson, I think's his name for Atlanta, hit a 2-run homer in the first inning. Mhm. But I wish the game was televised. I'd watch it today, but it's not on.
I don't know. The greed never stops. It's just
they got Miami Marlins at the Boston Red Sox on the MLB Network right now. And I think later on they have the Mets and Cardinals later tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might just watch an inning just to see the pitch, the pitch count. Not the pitch count, the timer.
Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at the Yes Network. The Yankees aren't even replaying the game today, so it's not even on later tonight. Sometimes they replay it, sometimes they don't. I don't get it. They have their own network. I don't know why they don't broadcast spring training games. Yeah,
they're big spring training. I mean, they're big off-season acquisition pitching-wise.
Yeah.
And they don't show it.
Yeah. You know, you had Cole yesterday, and like today, like you said, they got Rodon, their big acquisition, and nothing. And it's frustrating.
Okay, Robert, we'll try again next week.
Yeah. I want to see if the Mets are on tonight on their network. No, Mets aren't even on their own. Mets are on SNY, and they're not televising their game either. I just don't get it.
Here's another thing, Robert. I heard Jacob Degraw is hurt again.
No kidding. That's not a surprise. You'd be lucky if you get 12 starts out of him this year. That seems to be what his average is, 12 starts a year.
And I think Chapman got hurt, too.
Really?
I don't know what happened to him. I think he fell in his apartment or something like that. It was nothing serious.
Yeah.
So the injury bug continues even before they get on the field.
Yeah. Oh, man. These players today. Back then, remember, Mickey Mantle would wrap himself up to be out there on the field, and now if you feel a little sore, you don't play.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We'll get into that next week.
Yeah, hopefully we can catch a few games, and maybe some of these veterans will get some more at bats and more innings in there, and we'll have a better understanding of what's going on.
Yep. Sounds great, Robert.
All right, next week, Jack.
Yep, always a pleasure. I hope your cat's feeling better, Rob.
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. And to our listeners, we'll see you next week.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.